Hello, hello, how are we all? I don't know how long we're going to go tonight. I feel absolutely wretched. I feel like I'm coming down with something, which right off the tail of COVID is just brilliant. So, but in any case, we have a ThoughtSlime video to go over. Depending on how I'm doing, I may be talking to Andrew from the Crucible afterwards. I took down the theory meter because I don't think I'm going to be well enough to go that far. But hopefully we'll do that soon. All right. So here we have ThoughtSlime's abolish, quote-unquote, the left. I've seen stills from this. I haven't watched it yet, but I've seen stills from it, and it seems really, really dumb. So this will at the very least be an amusing way to shave years off my life. Let's jump into it.
There's a problem with the left, and I'm not simply saying that because I am the subject of criticism on the left. No. We can't win any confrontation with the far right unless this changes, because the left has alienated the average person, which in this case is me, with a focus on niche, boutique issues.
Thanks,
and it needs
Brianna
to
Wu.
focus on outreach specifically towards the white working class, a term I've adopted in this context because it sounds less racist than just saying white people, but actually it is just racism mixed with a little bit of classism, actually. But don't worry, there's enough plausible deniability to gaslight anyone that points that out. See, we can't let part.
What is this? Already in the comments claiming I said some imaginary shit like white people can't be working class. You can just create a smokescreen of horseshit to poison any wills. Okay, whatever.
Citizenship divide us. Hey, you ever notice that a lot of people say that kind of stuff and they say it right and then they follow it up with some of the wackest horseshit you've ever heard in your entire life? Just some real garbage brain shit from an idea dumpster. Ideas so fundamentally without value that you throw them out, you can't even recycle them. You just throw them right in the dumpster. And here's the thing about the left. Can we talk for a minute about the left, please? Why is nobody talking about the left? There's something I simply must say about the left. My thought on the subject is fuck the left. I don't care about the left. I don't owe it my loyalty. Neither do you. The left is...
You just owe it your entire fucking business, my dude.
Anything. It's not a group of people. It's not a tendency. It's not an ideology. The left is not even like a coherent set of goals or policies. The left does not exist.
Yeah, it does. It's silly. The left is highly general. It's not a particularly exclusive group. It really just refers to a general tendency towards reform and revolution and a generally non-conservative attitude to institutions and norms, where some other principle would motivate us to want to change them. But it does exist. It's purely relational. It doesn't refer to a discrete faction, but it is a thing.
Aside from as a rhetorical device used to mean like anybody who considers themselves on the left or anybody who considers themselves on the left would consider to be like their pals, their buddies. There is no consistent set of beliefs that unites people on the left. No economic theory, no social policy.
There aren't any of these things that unite Christians or Muslims or communists or whatever together either. That doesn't mean that these categorizations have no referent. It just means that they're overly general. That doesn't make any sense. That's not a base for saying something doesn't exist.
No guiding principle. You'll hear the term used to describe everything from hardcore anarchist revolutionaries to neoliberal ghouls who at least don't actively seem to want to feed.
These aren't leftists. These are liberals. Ugh.
Gay people into a wood chipper right now, and like everything in between that too. And perceptive viewers might notice, from the examples that I just gave, any such coalition is doomed. Those groups can work together over common goals, but also they have mutually exclusive goals that at some point they're going to need to resolve. And
wait. Common goals. Prevent the aforementioned wood chipping of the LGBTQ plus community. Brilliant. Might be cool if there were some social welfare programs. Great. Geez, private healthcare seems like a pretty murderous idea, huh? Mutually exclusive goals. End the violent exploitation of the working class, in particular those in the global south versus nah. The global south isn't the working class. You're talking about the proletariat. Ending imperialist forever wars versus, I don't know, maybe let's do them harder. I don't know who this is referring to. Is this talking about... Is this treating aid to Ukraine as part of an imperialist forever war on the part of the West? Because I can't think of any other example. I don't see a whole lot of leftists calling for the invasion of Afghanistan. Do anything at all to solve problems in the world versus vote more. How is it mutually exclusive to solve problems and voting? You vote maybe once a year at most, for most cases. You go to a booth, you tick a box, and you leave. How is this preventing you from solving problems in the world? Okay.
Exclusive goals that at some point they're going to need
Okay, so not thank you, Brianna Wu. Significantly dumber than Brianna Wu, which coming from me is a sentence.
to resolve. And that's good. Like, to be clear, that's a good part about that. That's a good job. That's part of coalition building. You set aside your disagreements, temporarily if need be, to achieve something desirable to all parties. But at some point, you got to go, hey, there's also stuff we disagree about. what are you going to do? And then have a big argument. There are degrees of disagreement, though. There are some disagreements which, although we might not ever be able to resolve, we should by no means tolerate. Disagreements whose effects are too fundamental, too immediate, and too costly to ignore in the service of cooperation. Like, for example, if you wanted to kill Batman, you could not ally yourself with Robin, because he's not going to support you, you know? Even if you agree with Robin on a lot of stuff, you're going to come into conflict about the whole Batman issue. Now, where you draw that line is going to vary. I'm not going to give you some prescriptive commandments about who you are and who you are not allowed to cooperate with. I'm not an organizer. I'm a blowhard. I have a YouTube channel. I am the least entitled person to an opinion on anything.
Finally, an intelligent statement.
That shit's complicated and difficult. I'm in no position to tell you where the line is, you know? But one thing, which sits comfortably on the do not tolerate side of the line, is anything less than full-throated active support for the well-being, equality, and autonomy of any political minority. Compromising on that is not only, and I don't want to overstate my point here, but evil, but also foolish, tactically speaking. Because, like, if you're in a situation where it isn't tactically foolish, if you have a goal where it makes strategic sense to throw a political minority under the bus, then probably what's happening there is your goal sucks. You have an asshole goal for shitty asshole guys that an asshole might have. Concern trolling for the well-being of the left invariably presents itself as the moderate, sensible, popular position. Anything these people don't like is too unrealistic.
Okay, we're course correcting. We're getting a little bit better. This is not as dumb anymore. I don't know what the opening was in that case, though.
Too utopian. You'll never sell it to the normies. Frustratingly, this type of rhetoric is used even when the position of the people using it is less popular or less credible, or, in some cases, flat-out trash brain garbage for idea babies to piss and shit their brain diapers with. These people don't argue that their position is more logical or morally superior, just that it's the best we can do right now. So it's better than nothing, right? Like, you know, if you can't get on board with this, then you're just a saboteur, letting the perfect be the enemy of the good. You're gatekeeping, you're wrecking. When this logic is weaponized against political minorities, it usually goes something like this. Yeah, like, I agree, obviously, with what you're saying. In theory, in a perfect world, it's just right now, in this political climate, it's very much, it's too complicated, you know? It's so controversial what you're saying, even though, again, I totally get it. It's just most people won't. And, like, also, can I say also, like, why are we spending so much energy on the needs of such a small group of people when it's going to turn off the majority citation needed? We got to think big picture here. And that makes a certain surface level sense.
Okay, that's fair. You're winning me over a little bit, ThoughtSlime. Where are you going to take this?
To a particular type of asshole. But there are some problems with this argument. Firstly, and this should go without saying, it's cowardly. It's the type of argument you can only make if you're a complete spineless chicken shit, a moral infant. If you make this type of argument, I'm forced to assume you are, at this moment, concealing that you've been bitten by a zombie. Secondly, consider this little thought experiment. I got a little brain tickler for you here. Whose support do you think will be more valuable for you? People whose material well-being specifically depends on your success? Or people who don't really give a shit either way? People are so disinterested that the slightest discomfort will stop them from engaging in the issue whatsoever. Thirdly, the whole premise rests on two assumptions, of which at least one is always total horseshit. That the rights of the political minority in question are some sort of highly unpopular third-rail position, and this is usually justified by, like, a conversation they claim they had with some sort of archetypical common man. They talked with their bus driver about gender self-ID, and they didn't get it. So, like, how can you expect the working class to understand such ideas? Because the second assumption is, of course, that the ignorant swine...
Oh, but when I want to destigmatize ASPD and everyone thinks I should drop it, the problem there is that you're not representing a community, you're representing a stereotype that is divorced from the community, so you have a different job cut out for you. You need to find a way to reframe that. That's your issue there, Sirius. The stigma itself is what you're advocating for. You need to somehow remove the community from that. That's your problem there.
Who represent your base.
Like when people talk about antisocial personality disorder, they think of the Joker, right? That's a problem in and of itself, and you've got a point there. But you need to find a way to bridge that gap. Advocate for it, but you got to do it well, right?
cannot have their inherently self-interested and bigoted minds changed. Of course, we, the more sophisticated and intelligent political class, can understand such highfalutin ideas like, for example, that it's bad to be racist. But the average person is a kind of soulless, thoughtless machine. They exclusively seek base pleasure and avoid discomfort. They're incapable of reason or empathy or any higher form of thought, really, and we're like unto gods to them. We must shepherd them carefully, lest our enlightened thinking move too fast, frightening and confusing their primitive, superstitious little minds. You see, you dumb utopian baby, if we fight for something so unpopular or out there, as the logic goes, it hurts the broader and more achievable goals of the left. You know, the ones I support, not the ones you support, because we have to be willing to compromise. I don't want to alarm you, but the far right, they're on the verge of winning. They're one election away from taking the whole pot. Okay, they're gaining momentum every day, and the only way to stop them now, I hate to say it, I really do, is to do the things that they're asking for, is to specifically do the things that they're agitating for. That's the only way to stop them. They want us to do that because it would stop them.
All right, you started off rough. I misunderstood you. I'm liking this now. This is growing on me a little bit. What you need to do, though, ThoughtSlime, in all seriousness, is like, stop with the bits. It's too much. Like, we're frantically going from like comedy sketch to comedy sketch. I can't tell what's a serious statement and what's a parody. I'm actually still not sure if the opening was a parody, and I think your description of the left as an entity is ill-conceived. But we're onto something here. This is not bad.
Them and make them less powerful. And, you know, plus, like, if they do win, like, you know, I'm white, so if they want to do racist stuff, I would bet. These compromises, of course, are always in service of power, in service of the status quo, in service to the exact structures we are meant to be opposing by making these compromises. It never works in the other direction. Never is the more moderate left asked to adopt a more radical position based on its popularity, feasibility, or outright necessity. We're meant to dismiss allies who agree with our positions in favor of courting allies who do not. Because maybe, if we do everything they ask for, they'll get on our side. That's what it means to get someone on your side, by the way. When you do something differently, because that's what they wanted. It means you changed their mind. We are asked to make this bargain constantly, to ignore some hideous injustice because, they claim, to focus on it necessarily distracts from all others. So you end up in this shell game scenario where the one true meaningful injustice is always the one you're not putting every iota of your effort into. And in order to fix it, you just got to ignore every other problem in the world. Those are all distractions. And this isn't a new technique. Throughout history, wherever there have been people fighting for any sort of social justice, equality, freedom from oppression, no matter how just their cause, you can find examples of that movement hypocritically excluding others in betrayal of their own principles. Whether it's white women within the suffragette movement refusing to stand in solidarity with women of color, to modern-day quote-unquote anti-imperialists who deride and ridicule the land back movement without bothering to do the barest iota of research.
Did ThoughtSlime endorse the Soul Bunny video? Because if they did, then... What are ThoughtSlime's pronouns, by the way? Somebody fill me on this. ThoughtSlime... Soul Bunny. Because here's the thing. There is a flip side to this. I'm agreeing with everything they're saying right here, more or less. But by the same token, you can't just dogmatically sign on to every single thing because it's been stamped with the brand of minority group X. That's not good. What you end up doing under those, in that case, is essentially just ceding all of the ground internally to all the reactionary elements within the left itself. That's not good either. That's not helping us. You can still make bad decisions, and you can still make tactically bad decisions while paying lip service to inclusivity or some such.
Search, just crack open Wikipedia and just really even look at what the definition of the term is, really understand what the thing that they're criticizing, just do the bare minimum, just really even look into it. And this is the problem that intersectional analysis was intended to help us study, to create the understanding that various forms of oppression intersect, creating unique material conditions and forms of oppression for those people who unfortunately find themselves within that intersection, beyond merely simply the combined effects of like two discrete types of oppression. A new symbiotic oppression is made. What people don't talk about as much is how these forms of oppression mutually reinforce one another. Easy example you've heard a million times, right? Racism enforces capitalism. Prejudice against racialized people is projected onto the poor and lower class and vice versa. It's an easy way for bourgeois interests to divide workers and create scapegoats for their own excesses. And also, just directly take a bunch of people's shit. Just take it and have it and own it. Then if anybody gets mad at them, they can go, but no, you're not poor because of me, because I have all the money. You're poor because Jews have bad money DNA, probably is what it is. And also, one time at the supermarket, I saw a black woman buy a lobster with a food stamp, so probably that's why you're poor. Obviously, racism would still be bad, whether or not it intersected with capitalism, and capitalism would likewise be bad in any sort of hypothetical alternate reality scenario where it developed without racism. Both of these things would be problems that required solving without the other, but in a world where both exist, like this one, Earth, you have to fight both. Otherwise, the struggle against either is incomplete. Here's another example for you. Transmisogyny reinforces misogyny classic. The ways that trans women's bodies and behaviors are scrutinized and demonized are then ported from the trans engine to the cis engine, which actually is pretty easy because that's the engine it was developed for, and used to control the bodies and behaviors of cis.
It's actually a little bit worse because it naturalizes it in the process. This is actually very solid so far. I have to take back my judgment. This is not as dumb as I thought it was going to be. It had a very bad opening, though.
Women. Cis women become the collateral damage in attempts to stop trans women from existing and need to conform to cis heteronormative standards to demonstrate their womanhoodliness. Cut your hair too short or have too many muscles and you might not be allowed to piss anymore or run in a race. Because what if you're a secret trans in disguise? Better take your rights away, just in case. Simultaneously, trans women are themselves the collateral damage in patriarchal attempts to control cis women, to firmly establish the boundaries of the feminine and police the bodies and identities of all kinds of different women. Some tall, some short, some of them have swords. All women. In both of these examples, you cannot fight one problem without fighting the other. If you try, you're just putting it in another place for it to get stronger later and come back and get you. You're not dismantling an oppressive structure. You're just asking for permission to be let into the oppressing group. And I can't exactly judge anyone for that. I am the beneficiary of all oppression in the world. But I would like to extend a word of caution, if I may. If you do manage to get put into the in-group, that's not going to last forever. Helping the people who are oppressing you now cook up a new way to oppress someone else, you can imagine how that plan might backfire, right? Ironically, the right seems to understand this better than the left sometimes, but in the backwards brain way that they don't really understand anything. They'll label any attempt to advocate for marginalized people as communist, as an evil Marxist plot. There's a famous photo of a shithead in Little Rock, Arkansas, protesting school integration in 1959, holding up a sign that reads, "Race mixing is communism." While I doubt that this man had a robust knowledge of communist theory or a rich understanding of the historical and material reality of white supremacy, and I do disagree with the premise.
Classless, mindless, stateless society which encourages the full development of human fulfillment, where the means of production are held in common by the people. Okay. Got it.
That race mixing is communism. He's not wrong to make the connection, right? What his pea brain has figured out is, if you're going to advocate for some people to be equal, it's a slippery slope towards all people becoming equal. It's just that that would be good. And he thinks it's bad because he's a shithead. This racist dipshit understood that any victory for Black Americans, anything which brings them closer towards freedom and equality, weakens the apparatus used to also deny freedom and equality to the working class. Because many working class people are themselves Black, but also because the methods and justifications used to subdue both groups share a great deal of ideological common ground. Again, he just thought that was cool. He thought it's cool that some people are oppressed on account of the shitheadedness. People like Anna will argue that identitarian concerns distract from economic issues.
I'm done with the identitarian garbage. I'm done with it. It is a giant distraction. The left, the people who are supposed to be fighting for a better economic system, better economic conditions, better working conditions, all of that stuff pushed aside. Let's focus on the identitarian stuff.
Right before she starts going apeshit over homeless people in inner city.
That they divide the working class.
And the identitarian stuff by nature divides us and leads to more fights, more conflict, even among us. But that's the point.
But okay, let's think that through for a second. Let's work that out in our brains. If you are excluded from the full and equal participation in the world on the basis of identity, say race or gender, sexuality, disability, left-handedness, whether or not you like Naruto, whatever. Do you see how that quickly becomes an economic issue?
That one's fair, though.
Like, if people of one identity are allowed to be in control of everything and use that control to subjugate another, how that might quickly become an economic problem for the people not in control. Like, for example, they would have worse job prospects, and at those jobs have worse working conditions, harder time building cash liquidity or owning a home, or not being in prison or enslaved or murdered. And even if they were murdered, like, would they even look for their bodies? Like, if you knew where their bodies were?
The point they're making is actually very similar to the primary issue that me and Brooks had with Sohrab Ahmari's Tyranny Inc., which was like, it outlined some problems in a fairly elegant way, with some parts that were not so elegant. But fundamentally, he identified that there was class exploitation at the core of the vast majority of the major issues facing working class Americans, but he didn't want to rock the boat and attack those class divisions themselves directly, despite the fact that they're based on exploitation. Which means he's outlining a problem and then dogmatically insisting that it should not be addressed. You should just get really mad about it, and magically that will make things better.
Would the government even go there to look for them? Like, if someone could say, like, hey, we have reasonable suspicion that there's some bodies, say, in a landfill would be one place they might be, then would the government even go look? Do you see how all of these things could be affected by whether or not you are considered a subhuman, inferior, second-class citizen? How that might actually have a pretty big financial impact on you. They do kind of acknowledge this by talking about how we have to work towards making sure that everybody has equal rights and equal opportunities and equal access to housing. And it's just like the cultural stuff that they think is pointless, right?
We shot a show, I don't know if you guys are ever going to see it, we shot a pilot just this weekend with a mixed Republican and Democratic family.
So I think my principal issue with this so far is that it's treating media figures as if they're representative of the left wing in general. And in terms of online politics, like, they do, quote unquote, represent the left in general insofar as they're the leftists that people really know about. But I don't think it's fair to tie the fortunes and the viability of every single politically involved leftist, of which there are very, very, very many, to the decisions and the career trajectories of a bunch of comedians, essentially. People who read the news, who don't do any, like, actual reporting themselves, but simply, like, TYT has produced a lot of fairly well-known public figures, but by and large, most of what they do is commentary. It's a highly produced version of precisely what people like Vosh do. These aren't representatives of the left. They're media entertainers who have built their platform off of doing pro-left punditry. And to that extent, if they do a good job, they should be supported in doing so. And if they do a bad job or they betray it, they should be cast aside. But they are not in any sense a structural part of the left. They can't be. For one thing, they have an ulterior motive that's driving them to take the positions that they do. It makes them money, regardless of whether or not they actually believe in those positions. And I think in the last few months, we've seen pretty definitively that they don't. Like, imagine if, like, Disney stopped putting gay people into the blurry background shots of MCU and Star Wars films. That would not mean that the left has lost a major structural component or some major front. That would be some cynical media apparatus making a decision in its own independent self-interest.
Okay, I asked him about trans rights. Should they have the same rights, same exact rights in housing, employment, etc.? Every one of them, including hardcore Trump people, were like, yes, they should have the same exact rights.
Yeah, exactly.
When I asked about this topic, every one of them, except one, 6 out of 7, were like, no, not competing in sports.
Where do you think the denial of those economic rights comes from in the first place? Like, what do you think caused people to want to do that? Do you think maybe that, like, if you spend a lot of time demonizing a group of people and portraying them as inherently shitty, predatory monster goblins, that eventually that might lead you to want to take away some of those equal rights? And how maybe if you spend your time complaining that anyone attempting to change those cultural narratives is a hysterical baby person, you might be contributing to that?
But idiot activists, yes, I just called you an idiot. Activists go in there and go, no, I'm going to fall right into that.
Schenck started the Justice Dems. That's a good thing, I think. Yeah, but he also turned on it.
Trap, and I'm going to fight on the only losing ground we have so we can elect more Republicans.
Like the issue here is not, do you condemn all of a person's actions as therefore bad? The issue is that when you're identifying somebody as a part of a movement or as a representative of it, if they have additional like lines of motivation which will make them have deep and insurmountable incentive to turn on the thing you're attributing their loyalty to, they're not a part of that. They're incidental. They're a part of the terrain that happens to be fortuitously advantageous to you right now, but you can't count on that always being the case. They are territory that can be conquered by the other side. Their hearts are not on your side.
So they can pass more anti-LGBT laws.
The people who argue that it is divisive to be united with one another come in two general varieties. Either they're right-wing grifters who want to third-position themselves into leftist spaces to spread their dipshit ideas around, or they're complete rubes, useful dolts, easy marks for the aforementioned grifters. And it is pretty useless to speculate which one any given person is, because as you can imagine, there's a lot of overlap in that Venn diagram, but I do have a rubric I like to use in these situations. A little test I use to determine if people are arguing in bad faith. When their position is criticized, do they A, defend their position, explaining their logic, or ignore the criticism, or B, whine about how it's unfair that people are disagreeing with them at all and they kick up a big stink about it, people saying they're wrong is actually them being silenced, and making them be silent about disagreeing with you is what free speech means.
This is really strong, actually. And this is precisely my issue with Anna Kasparian. I wouldn't have nearly the issue that I do if she hadn't made the direct statement that she is claiming is being made against her unfairly for the exact same thing, and pretending like this is some new horrendous wrong. That because she's suddenly, without any seeming provocation, jumping on board with the fear-mongering about the birthing people language, something that she herself ridiculed and attributed intrinsic bad faith to, and then proceeded not to justify this in terms of like an actual change in her position over time, like she's thought this through and she's changed her stance, and there's like a line of reasoning you can follow, just pretending the past doesn't exist and just switching because that's where the political winds are blowing. That's somebody who's out for themselves, who will stab you in the back, is actively doing so as she speaks.
But them disagreeing with you obviously shows that they don't tolerate disagreement. So they shouldn't be allowed to say that they don't agree, because that's not free speech.
Silver. Oh yeah, I remember this. Oh my god.
And it is a very handy rhetorical strategy because it means you never have to defend your positions. When challenged, you can retreat to a grandstanding speech about the importance of open debate and civil dialogue. You can tut-tut and finger wag about how rude everyone else is, and then claim that they're the ones scolding you? Like, it feels to me like the worst time to accuse someone of scolding you would be right after you gave them an etiquette lesson and lectured them about how to disagree civilly. It seems like a scoldy thing to do. To whine and cry and kick and stamp your feet about everybody won't let you disagree. Nobody these days will tolerate disagreements. But like, nah, you can disagree. By all means, believe whatever you want to believe. It's just that the thing you believe means you're a big doo-doo dum-dum.
No, I think the issue isn't that. Like, if somebody truly believes in a thing, then that person is somebody you can actually reach. If you think that person is sincere and they are motivated to their position via ignorance, then that actually opens up the possibility for dialogue. It doesn't necessarily mean you'll win, and you may need to make judgment calls like, is this person just too entrenched or too unreasonable or too unwilling to educate themselves in some other way so you can actually get through to them. But that's the kind of person you can make an attempt with. The problem with someone like Anna Kasparian is because she's being intrinsically dishonest, because she is only deflecting, there isn't an aperture to actually get through to her and talk to the person, because that person doesn't exist. What she's projecting to you is not her real opinion. This is a tactically chosen position because it benefits her materially or politically or some such. But the crucial point is it benefits her personally. It doesn't benefit a movement. It's not based on loyalty to a principle. It's literally just, I'm seeing people say this thing and finding success doing so. I'm going to do that myself. To hell with everything I stood for leading up to this point. I want money and fame.
That's my belief. It's an open dialogue. Which brings me back to the left. I ask you now, of what use is being part of the left? My understanding was that the left represented a loose coalition of people whose ideas and values I agreed with, people who wanted and fought for the same things I want. If, in order to succeed, that group must allow people whose ideas and values are in direct contrast to the goals we want to pursue, the question must be asked, of what use is this thing? Why protect it?
That is a thinly lifted line from No Country for Old Men, and you fucking know it. Don't even try that shit. Let's hear this one more time.
You now, of what use is being part of the left? My understanding was that the left represented...
The line is, if the rule you followed led you to this, of what use was the rule? Or what use is the rule? Or is, I can't remember. That's the line. This is 100% a mutilation of that. I'm not offended by it, but I am annoyed by it.
A loose coalition of people whose ideas and values I agreed with, people who wanted and fought for the same things I want. If, in order to succeed, that group must allow people whose ideas and values are in direct contrast to the goals we want to pursue, the question must be asked, of what use is this thing? Why protect it? A lot of people would say it's because to stop the far...
You shouldn't protect it. It's useful as a shorthand, but you absolutely shouldn't protect it. As soon as you start treating the left, this is the crucial point. This is what intelligent fascists like Robert Michel's figured out. Not Michel's, Michel. I used to say Mitchell's, so I'm an idiot. As soon as you have a party, as soon as you have a discrete structure, regardless of what it stands for, it could stand for the common man, it could stand for democracy, it could stand for social justice, freedom, whatever. As soon as you have a party that needs to play a certain game in order to be successful and to sustain itself, the conservation of its existence is now going to be competing with the success of the thing that it represents. And this thing will win because it has quested out and decided to represent that side. This cause's fortune. It has decided to be the hero that's going to fight for this cause. And so in the minds of the people involved, there is the omnipresent alibi. Whatever we do for the sake of this organization, that's actually for the sake of this cause, even when it's not. Even when what they're actually doing is throwing the cause under the bus to maintain the thing because they have staked out the organization as the only hope of the cause, or as one of the critical things of the cause. Because lurking underneath is the fact that their intentions aren't that noble. Human beings want to get wealthy, they want to be safe, they want to be successful, they want to be heard, they want to be important, they want to be famous. And so, if that is secured by being part of an organization that represents this cause, they will do so. If that is secured by being a part of this organization and steering it in some ways that seem to the common riffraff to be against the interest of that cause, even if they're right, they'll do that.
Right. It's the only way to do it is we got to let everybody in so we can stop the far right. But
Is my nose stuffed? I'm recovering from COVID.
I think a more effective strategy for fighting the far right, in my opinion, would be not letting them on your side. Like we got to drift to the right in order to protect ourselves from the right. You know? Sometimes you say something and you think, oh man, am I strawmanning the position of the people that I'm complaining about? And then they just fucking tweet it, you know? Then they just fucking tweet it.
Imagine if the right wing and the left wing got together to fight corruption. I know many on both sides will say that you cannot work with these monsters and you must not be naive. Yes, I understand. But what if we got together just once to fuck the establishment? Then you become the establishment chink. That's what happens. It is not them who are corrupted by you. The fact that you are making this move is you being corrupted by them, by the thing they've been corrupted by the benefits of the very system that supposedly the left exists to push back against. I have to retract my judgment on this video. This is not a dumb video at all. This is very on point. It started rough. And the title is a mistake because people are not going to pay attention closely to this. This is very solid so far. He's got a couple minutes. He can still turn around and make it bad, but this is a very strong video. I'm glad I covered this.
Just exit out to all of their followers on X. I just think that if we're trying to...
That's not an idiot tweet by Cenk. You have to be careful. Cenk's not stupid. What Cenk is deeply cynical. And you have to treat every single person in media this way. These people are not children. Their hearts are not in the right place. Their hearts are where their money is. And for a little while, for a decent amount of time, like a solid, close to a decade now, people bought the bullshit that the left was going to be endlessly on the ascent and it would run everything. There were two kinds of people who responded to this. There were people who responded in terror to this and became, or responded to the terror at this fiction, and decided to grow a platform and a persona, fear-mongering about that. And there were other people who bought the bullshit and went in the other direction. The left's on the rise, it's going to control everything, therefore I'm going to be on the winning side. And as soon as it turned out not to be the case, you see the drift. So many people are making this exact same move for precisely that reason, because they weren't on the left because they really believed in it. They were on the left because it was advantageous to do so. And you don't need to be like evil and cackling and conniving to reach that conclusion. That's the insidious part. It can simply be easy to do that. It can simply be the case that there aren't enough ambient discomforts challenging your shallow onboarding of positions, because people like the fact that there were all of these lefties popping up everywhere, that there were all these big charismatic figures that were suddenly like appearing to fill in the seeming void. Like it wasn't just like Sargon and New Atheist dipshits and people like that. There were also like there were other figures that were rising up to contest them, but here's the problem. It's like the parable of the sower, right? If the roots are growing into rocks and they're not well anchored down, then when the wind comes, they blow away.
To fight the far right, it would be helpful to not form consensus with them on account of they want to kill a bunch of people and take away a bunch of human rights, and that really isn't the type of thing I want to compromise about. Like, there's really nothing that could make that compromise worth it for me, Like the left would ever win? The left is winning constantly. The reason why we have people like Anna Kasparian in leadership positions on these major media platforms is precisely because an older form of the left won at some point. People managed to push for greater and greater equality for more and more groups that were dispossessed and kept out from the equation, from the discussion. And now we have these people in leadership positions increasingly. It's not perfect. People are still heavily corrupted by the system. There's still rampant inequality. People will use the small gains of their group in order to stomp on another group. But less and less so. One of the reasons why the quote-unquote culture wars are so vicious right now is precisely because of the amount of areas of life that are able to be contested now. That was not always the case. We are in very novel territory. And it's a mistake to think that the left is quote-unquote losing. We're always in crisis, and we will be for the foreseeable future. And the not foreseeable future in all likelihood. But that doesn't mean we're losing. You can't really tell what the end result of all of this is going to be until after you kind of cross the line. And like the reaction and the falling away, that's happened before. We're not special. We've actually got it relatively easy compared to most people in the past, which is saying something about how bad it used to be. And so, like, if that divides the left, I can live with that. Divide it up, baby. Cut that baby down the middle. I don't care who the left's true mother is. I don't care. Fucking balkanize the left. Who gives a shit? This isn't team sports.
That's a reference to a Bible story, I think, where King Solomon was asked to judge between two women who were fighting over the ownership of a child, whose child it was, and he said, all right, divide the child in half, Both of you can take one half. One mother said, or one supposed mother said, sure, whatever, and the other one was like, no, give the child to the other mother. And so he gave the child, of course, to the mother who said, like, save the child and I'll give up ownership.
So I don't care about my team winning. You know, what I care about is the goals that I wish to pursue. And if we must abandon those goals in order for the left to win, then the left is a dead project, standing in the way of the things that I want. So, you know, in conclusion,
Okay.
be wary of anyone who tells you that by expressing your opinions, you have silenced theirs. That by advocating for solidarity, you are sowing division. That by disagreeing with them, you have somehow not allowed for the possibility of disagreement. That they know better than
Zoom
you
in more,
the rate of
coward.
progress that other people are willing to accept. That they represent normal people, the silent majority, the default human opinion, while you are aberrant and strange. Your ideas are off-putting and impossible to communicate. Everyone else, the normal people out there, like me, are too stupid to understand those ideas. I know, because I go out and I talk to people sometimes. And you're stupid if you think that people will understand your smart ideas. Basically, anybody who tells you that the appropriate way to make progress is indistinguishable from the lazy, thoughtless positions of the reactionaries they claim to be the only ones positioned to defeat. Thank you for...
That was actually really well said. That was really good. First minute sucked. Sucked so bad. The title needs to change. This was really good. This is actually my first ThoughtSlime video. It's actually really good. I'm very, very happy with this. I've just subscribed, as a matter of fact. Alright, I'm going to run to the washroom, and then I don't know what we're going to do next. I haven't heard from Andrew yet, so I don't know if we're talking tonight. Possibly not. I might even call it here, because I'm feeling, like, deathly ill right now. But we'll play it by ear. I'll be back in a couple minutes. Grab coffee or whatever. And super chat me if you want to help support the channel. Be right back. Alright. I haven't heard from Andrew, and we don't have a topic planned, so I'm going to assume this isn't happening tonight, and I'm grateful for that, because I feel awful. So I'm probably actually going to call it now. I'm going to send you somewhere, though. Thank you, by the way, Naomi Chance, for the $5. I really appreciate that. ThoughtSlime has decent videos. They're just a condescending jackass, which makes agreeing with them painful to do. I fortunately haven't seen much of ThoughtSlime, but I would say... Oh, I should probably bring this closer to me. I will say if if they've been endorsing the Soul Bunny video, there's a flip side to all of this that they need to address. Because that shit wasn't good. I appreciated Demon Mama's attempt to kind of neuter the momentum of that. Not the momentum of the video itself, but of the drama, like, dogpile about it. But still, like, that kind of thing is not helping us. That's legitimately not helping anybody. There are types of division that are worth it, and there are types that are actually just a waste of energy and are, well, monetarily advantageous to people who are engaging in it. Not good for the rest of us. Not good at all. Alright, who am I going to send you to? Let's see here. Is Demon Mama going? She's back. She's probably going soon. Nope. How about Wash? Is Wash going? No. When are they going up? No, that's not till tomorrow. That's no good. How about Lucy? Riverboat Jack. No. I'm not sending you to Short Fat Otaku. I'll send you to Tomfoolery before I send you to Short Fat Otaku. God damn it. Why is nobody ever streaming? Screw it. Is Wick going still? What the hell? Why are all of my redirect privileges down? Okay. Well, I guess I'm sending you nowhere. Let's see. Is anybody else going live right now? How about Aiko? Is she going live? Well, I guess that's that. Have a good night, everyone. Oh, Germa? Who's Germa? Let's see. I wonder if Rico's on, actually. Let's see. Oh my god. I don't understand why you would ever turn down redirect permissions. Like, that's only to your advantage. It's only ever to your advantage. Heem? Is Heem live? He's still doing stuff? I'm gonna send you to the cheese man, okay? Go say hi to the cheese man for me.